All right, so 8.4, like the second part. So again, we're doing vertex form. So most of the time it seems to be listing it with the function notation. So there's our vertex form. And so part of what you need to study is like when it looks like that, it's vertex form. And so again, the vertex is the H and the K. That's a bad K. And then remember that the H part is going to be the opposite. So it'll kind of start out the same way as the last assignment. So it'll want to know what's the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So the vertex, remember, it's opposite of if on the inside. The outside, it's the same. And the axis of symmetry is the x number of the vertex. Okay, so the first 4 problems, it just says find the vertex and the axis of symmetry of the graph. Okay, then you're going to have 4 that you're going to match. So it's going to give you equations, and you're going to match the graph. So the kind of thing to figure out, you're going to need to just look at 2 things to figure it out. Number 1, the vertex. So find the vertex, and when you find the vertex, 2 of the graphs are going to have the same vertex. So then you got to figure out which one opened, and one of them will open up and one of them will open down. So remember that the A part of vertex form is what determines. So remember, if we have it's actually like a negative sign in the front. So it's not there right now. But remember that is what tells us if it's a reflection. So if there's no negative sign, the graph opens up is what we call it. So it'll look like this. The opening will be up. If there is a negative sign, then the graph opens down. So it'll look like that. Okay, so on those matching ones, find the vertex. And then again, 2 of the graphs will have the same vertex. If there's a negative in the front, then it needs to be the one that goes down. If there's no negative in the front, it needs to go up. It doesn't matter what this A number is. If there's a 2 or a 3 or a 1/2 or a 1/5 or whatever it is, that doesn't matter for those matching ones. Just the open up, open down, and the actual vertex. Just remember again that the inside, the H part, is opposite. Okay, so if we have right here, we have we see +2, but the actual vertex is -2. We have to do the opposite, and it's because of the minus sign up here in the formula, or this minus sign right here. So that minus tells you do the opposite. Since it's +k, that means just do whatever it says. So that's why this -3 is the same. Okay? All right, I'm going to have some to graph. So let's do a couple of those. So the graphing ones, and it will say compare the graph to x squared. So we're going to have to, we could have up to 4 different transformations on this one. Okay. And we'll go back over those. So I'm going to try to do the graphing over here on the right side. So the vertex is -1, -4. Okay, looking at our opposite of the inside, it says +1, so I do -1, and then the -4 at the end. So then the axis of symmetry is x equals -1. So -1, -4. And then there's our axis of symmetry. So I'm going to plug in 0 and +1, because those are the two to the right. I'd rather not plug in -2 and -3, like that just seems a lot harder. So I'm going to kind of come down over here to the right, or excuse me, to the left. And so I always change it to y because I'm looking for the y part of a coordinate. So if I plug in 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 4 is -2. Okay, so it takes a little bit longer on these ones, but you guys can do it. 1 plus 1 squared minus 4. 2 to the second power is 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 4 is 4. So 0, -2 goes right there. 1, 4 goes up there. And then remember, we get to flip them over. Okay, and there's the graph. All right, so then on this set of problems, graph the function, compare the graph to the graph of x squared. So anything that's not the x or the squared part, we have to address. So the 2 vertical stretch by 2. Okay, remember that number in the front, vertical stretch or vertical shrink. So the stretch graphs get tall really fast. The shrink graphs kind of spread out wide. All right, so the +1 is a translation opposite. Remember, everything's opposite. So instead of +1 would be 1 to the right, we're going to go 1 to the left. And then the -4 is a translation down 4. So you can look at it as this vertex over here. Here's like our, how did I put the vertex on the graph? Well, I went 1 to the left, and then I went 4 down. That's the same thing as the translation part. How did I get to where the vertex was? I went 1 to the left, and then I went down 4. And you could put translation 4 down, or down 4, or translation left 1, or 1 left. I always kind of, obviously I'm not consistent like right there, but excuse me, you can do either like that. Okay. All right, let's do another that incorporates something that we've done part of it, but so sometimes that just a negative sign in the front throws people off sometimes. So vertex +2, +3, remember opposite, axis x equals 2. So +2, +3, 2 to the right, 3 up. And then our axis of symmetry is x equals 2. So I'm going to plug in 3 and 4. You could do 1 and 0 if you wanted. I like to do, again, to the right. It usually makes the plug-in part of the problem a little bit easier. So when we do the plug-in, 3 minus 2 squared. So if I plugged in 1, then I get a negative number in the parentheses, and sometimes that's not very nice, but 1 squared plus 3. So here's the part that sometimes people mess up. The negative is just, it's there. Keep bringing it down. 1 to the second power is 1. So it's going to be negative right there. Okay, no matter what. So, yeah, it's not a -1 times -1 because the negative is not grouped with the 1. Okay, so 3, 2. And then we're going to do the 4. So -4 minus 2 is 2. It's negative. Now I do 2 to the second power is 4. And -4 plus 3 is -1. So 3, 2 is right there. And 4, -1 is there. And then I get to flip them over. Should make that go up a little bit higher. Okay. So there's our graph. And then now again, we got to do the transformation. So the negative in the front is always a reflection over the x-axis. And then again, I think that this is why I think vertex form is the easiest. The -2 and the 3, remember that's the vertex. How did I graph 2, 3? I went a translation to the right 2, and then I did a translation up 3. I went 2 to the right and I went 3 up. Okay, so if you can make that connection, it's going to be even easier. All right. You know what? I think I'm going to cut out those last few problems that I was going to have you do. We'll end it right there. Okay, so you're going to have what's the vertex, what's the axis of symmetry. Then you're going to have 4 of them to match. And then you're going to have 6 of them to graph. And then still compare to x squared like we just did. Okay? All right, so ask questions if you're not understanding, guys. All right, that's all I got for you. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.